Welcome back to the Whole Nine Yards here. Drew Pien with Brandon Kokorian on a Thursday afternoon. Brandon, how's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
It's going pretty well. This audio stuff is not cooperating, but hopefully it sounds all right on your guys' end. It should be fine. But we had a Monday night game. Our last recording was Sunday night, so we have not talked about Monday night's game at all. It was an interesting game. I think a game that people weren't really excited about. Steelers, Bears, two just kind of middling teams, but we got a relatively exciting game, even if the football itself was not necessarily the best football we've ever seen. Any thoughts about that game? Before I get into what I'm going to say?
Not really. I think the only thing I'd say is probably just, the Steelers, people, I think, are still kind of viewing them as somewhat playoff contention, team. And, they're just not, in my opinion. Even though they won this game, they really should have won this game by a lot more than they did. They only won by 2 points. And honestly, they probably should have lost the game when it came to the end. But it's just, I don't view this team as a good team at all. They're 5-3, but I think it's a very fraudulent 5-3. They also play the Lions this week, so that, that's also going to be it should be an easy game, but it's probably going to end up being a close game because, again, the Steelers, they may win games, but they're just not that good of a football team. So I'd kind of just come away thinking the same thing I thought going to the game, which is that the Steelers are good, but they're not a playoff team, and if they make the playoffs, they're going to get blown out by whoever in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. So when we were doing predictions this week, like we do every week, we come up with our 5 games. The Steelers-Lions was a game I was looking at, and I was like, well, the Lions are horrible.
Yeah.
People thought they might have been good to begin with. I was never on the Lions bandwagon as, they're a good, bad team. I think some people were. I don't know if you were. I think you liked the Lions maybe slightly more than I did, but
Yeah,
I was never a big Lions fan, but I was looking at the Steelers-Lions game thinking I might go Steelers, and then I kind of thought to myself, wait, I don't like this Steelers team. The only thing that's kind of enticing about them is the fact that they've been picking up maybe a little bit of media hype because they've won, I think, 4 straight. They won Broncos 27-19, against the Seahawks 23-20, Browns they won 15-10, and Bears they won 29-27. While a 4-game win streak is impressive and not many teams do it typically, these are 4 wins that are frankly just not that impressive. The most impressive one, I don't know, maybe beating the Browns 15-10, but it's really not that impressive at all. The Seahawks game, Geno Smith, Broncos are the Broncos, and the Bears game, yeah, you should have won by more than you won.
Yeah.
So I was debating going, Lions or Steelers -10 against the Lions, but I decided not to because, the Steelers are just not good. But the one thing I did want to talk about at this Monday night football game was the taunting call late in the fourth quarter. People were talking about it Tuesday after the Monday night game. Sorry if the audio is messed up. But Cassius Marsh, I don't know if he's ever been on Dallas before, but he's been across a few teams, Patriots, Lions, I think, Seahawks, 49ers. He's been on a bunch of teams, I think. Never been good. He's always been a pretty cocky guy, I think. But anyways, he gets called for taunting after getting a sack and essentially doing a spin kick. He kind of stares down some players and then stares down the sideline and then kind of runs back to his sideline. And, okay, so there's 2 things here. One, there's the play and that particular penalty, and then there's the rule itself. I'm happy they threw the flag on that. As far as taunting goes, I think that's taunting, and it sucks, and it's a bad rule, but letter of the law, that's a flag in my opinion. The way Tony Corrente went about it, to me, was just kind of cringe. The little hip check, and then the way he kind of just, I don't know, he just kind of he acted like, again, and I don't know why refs do this. They act like the 20,000+ people in the stadium paid to watch them ref the game, but they paid to watch the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the cornerbacks and the safeties make big plays. And I just thought all around it made for a bad product. But again, was it taunting? In my opinion, yes. He was taunting for 15 seconds. I just think you have to throw the flag there. But that brings me to the taunting rule. And we haven't really talked about it much, I don't think, on this podcast.
No.
But it was something that's been talked about a while, ever since it got instated in the offseason. And I think it's just a bad rule. It's a horrible rule. Like, I understand, unsportsmanlike conduct and maybe excessive celebration or something like that, but taunting, no. Should that be a flag? No, it just shouldn't. The rule's bad. Is that what I would do if I was an NFL player and got a sack? Would I go on some 15-second celebration taunting type of deal, even though realistically I just got picked up off the streets like 5 days ago and I'm not a good player? I wouldn't. I'm not. He's acting like he's TJ Watt. He's acting like he's Khalil Mack. He's just not.
Yeah.
He's a special teamer, essentially, who sometimes sees the field on defense. I didn't like it, but honestly, I think the taunting rule needs to go after this year. The NFL is pretty good with kind of bringing in a rule and then the next year just taking it out. So I hope that's what they do. Especially if we get another one of these things in maybe, the playoffs or in a big game that has implications on the playoffs, then I think it's really going to start to pick up the whole get rid of taunting thing. And it's already been a thing for a while. What are your thoughts, though, on taunting?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. First, I don't think it was honestly taunting, to be honest. It wasn't even for the spin kick that the flag was thrown. It was for him looking at the other team's bench, which I don't think that's a taunting penalty. I think if you look at them and don't say anything and don't get in someone's face, I think if you were to do that, then I think it's a penalty because obviously you're inciting something. But just looking at the other team's bench, now look, should he be doing it in the first place? No, because you're right. I mean, he's a backup who's been on multiple teams. He was called up from the practice squad for that game, so he shouldn't be doing it in the first place. But that's not a penalty, and it had no effect on the game. Like, they got a sack on third down. It had no effect on the play, and now you're just gifting them a first down to keep a drive going. Now, it did turn out that they did stop him. They did still score a touchdown, so it still worked out. But obviously, that's time lost on the clock when obviously you still could have used that. So. I don't think it was a penalty, but the rule itself, yeah, I think it's probably something that's going to go away. I think that the taunting rule should only be used after, honestly, I guess I don't even, is excessive celebration even still a penalty? I think it's just taunt. I think it's all just goes under taunting. So I think I'd only use it after a score. I think that's the only way to at least add a penalty onto it. I think if you were to do it in the field of play, like after a sack or after you break up a pass if you're a corner or something, I think that could be something that could be viewed later. Maybe you can get fined for it, but I don't think it should be a penalty. I think that's just ridiculous, especially 15 yards. I mean, 15-yard penalty is obviously the most extreme penalty you can have. So for a taunting penalty, when you can have so many other penalties that are 5 or 10 yards, it's just too much of an effect on the game. Obviously gives you a first down, 15 yards. I think it's something that they should just fine you for unless it's after a touchdown. I think because then you can do it on the kickoffs and it doesn't really matter. Yeah. That's the way I look at it, but they could easily go away with it.
I look at it that way too. Was Cassius Marsh's taunting an egregious taunt? No. Maybe it was a taunt, maybe it wasn't. I guess my sort of feelings were just more so I don't like Cassius Marsh. We traded a 5th and a 7th round pick for Cassius Marsh, by the way, which is insane. I know that's not a lot of draft capital, but for somebody like that, it is because he's bad. Yeah. Get rid of the taunting penalty, NFL. Hopefully, please, after this year. Please don't go ham on the taunting penalties in the playoffs. If a taunting penalty costs a team a game, will I feel empathetic for the team or the player? Probably not, because we all know about the taunting rule, but will it piss me off and piss many other NFL fans off? Yes.
Yeah, it will.
Also, I'm going to try to get a clickbait title for the taunting stuff. Maybe this one rule may kill the NFL. And if you saw that title and you're watching this now, it's not going to kill the NFL if I use that as a title.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not. But I wanted you to click on this video. And if that got you to click on this video, good. If not, then, well, whatever, I guess. But moving on from that, there's some other NFL news other than, the games themselves. Odell Beckham obviously cleared waivers on Tuesday. Multiple teams made offers, it seems. At least that's what the reports are.
Yep.
Right now, I want to say he's down to, you may have the information, but I want to say he's down to Green Bay, Kansas City, and New Orleans, or at least those are the 3 favorites.
Yep.
As well as Seattle and New England showed interest, but I think they're probably 4th and 5th place there. Maybe they're out already. I don't know. But we've talked about this already. We've talked about Odell, but where do you think he goes? Where is that good? Is that bad?
Yeah, I think they said that he's gonna wait. He's gonna wait till the games are done this week, which obviously makes sense. It's already Thursday, but they say it looks like the Saints, which, I think for him, I mean, out of those three teams, you'd probably pick. I think the Saints would be the last team you'd pick, only based on other receivers on the team and the quarterback. So obviously you're going with Trevor Siemian or Taysom Hill, and you're the best receiver on the team as soon as you get on that team compared to Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and then Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. So I'd probably say one of those two teams fits him better because he's not going to have to be the number one wide receiver. He could just get 4 or 5 catches a game, get 50, 60 yards, maybe have a big play once every couple games or whatever. Obviously, in an offense, either of those offenses, you're never going to get double coverage. So I would say one of those teams probably fits him better, but it seems like he wants to go with the Saints. Obviously, he's from Louisiana, so it makes sense. Obviously, went to LSU as well. So it looks like he's going to go to the Saints, but if I was him, I'd choose the Chiefs or the Packers, but I think that gives you the best. If you look at almost like Antonio Brown, I feel like it's almost a similar situation. Go to a team that obviously already has the quarterback and the wide receivers, and you could just fit in that third wide receiver spot or second if you're on the Packers, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, in my opinion, what should AB do long-term for his career and legacy-wise? I think it's to go to a winning culture with a very competitive team and a really good quarterback who's not.
Yeah.
So I think Kansas City would be the team. I would prefer that team over Green Bay. Are they better right now? No. But I prefer the Chiefs culture over the Packers culture. I know it's debatable, but I will lean Chiefs. I prefer Mahomes' attitude over Rodgers. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take right now. I've always had that take. I've never been a big Rodgers fan, but I prefer Mahomes over Rodgers. I prefer Reed over LaFleur slightly. Probably maybe more than slightly, but I think the Chiefs would be the best team. The Packers are up there though for sure. The Saints I don't like as much just because Trevor Siemian, I mean, you're going to draw double teams again. There's going to be a lot of the same stuff that happened in Cleveland, I think. New England would be a team I would consider. Obviously, I'm biased. I would like Odell for nothing crazy money-wise, but I would like Odell. We need a receiver, but we'll see what happens. Seattle, I don't love. You're going to be the wide receiver 3 there, which, I mean, is fine, but it's not like you're making that sacrifice for an insane team on paper.
Yeah.
It's a good team. It's a good team. If Russell Wilson comes back, which he is going to, it seems like, and plays to 95% of what he can be, which is a borderline MVP guy, if he can be that guy, then I think this team can win playoff games, but they need some luck. They need some players to have some career years, like some Leonard Fournette type playoff runs. Not from a running back, but I guess from running back too, but also from some defensive players. They'll need Jamal Adams to be his best version of himself. You'll need a lot of stuff if you're the Seahawks. If you're the Chiefs or the Packers, you don't need too much. You're going to be there no matter what. The Seahawks are not a guarantee. Pat's not a guarantee. Saints definitely not a guarantee. So, yeah, I think I would lean Chiefs, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Odell. But that's pretty much it. I guess we'll just talk about Odell when he actually signs somewhere. And we'll react to that. We'll just get into week.
Well, 10. I guess there was another signing today. Cam Newton.
Did he? Did I miss it?
Yeah, he signed with the Panthers, yeah.
Oh,
that was early this morning, yeah. So Cam Newton's back with the Panthers. I guess Drew missed that, but that happened this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Darnold's out 4 to 6 weeks, they said, with a shoulder injury. So they needed another quarterback. Obviously, they had P.J. Walker as their backup, but it seemed to make sense that, Newton obviously has been with the Panthers his whole career, that, he comes back. It's probably still kind of weird because they're obviously the regime that let him go, but yeah, he's coming back, and it looks like he's probably going to be the starter. Maybe not this week because he obviously just signed today, but, by the time Darnold comes back, it looks like it's going to be Newton as the starter, and then if they're playing well and he's playing well, I could see him being the starter the rest of the season because I don't think they're in love with Darnold, and if Newton does kind of secure that job before Darnold comes back, then Darnold's going to be on another team by next year.
Yeah, so I guess this is technically my first reactions because I somehow missed this earlier today, but happened 2 or 3 hours ago, it looks like. But
yeah.
Okay, so I've been talking to some people for a while about Newton. Not a while, but as a Patriots fan, he was like, well, I think Newton's going to get a chance to start somewhere else. And I was like, I would be slightly surprised But even if it does happen, he's bad. To me, if Cam was going to have that resurgence in his career, it was going to be in New England. It was set up for success. Brady leaves. You still have an all right competitive roster. Obviously, the greatest coach of all time, probably, and it didn't work. It did not work out. And is that gonna work out in Carolina? No. As far as system ties, he doesn't really have many system ties to this team right now. I don't think. Maybe slightly, but I mean, it's not like Rivera's still here, so I don't think he's just going to be able to instantly plug and play. Will he have an easier time than if he was to sign with Washington or New Orleans? 100%, right? Well, maybe not Washington, but New Orleans? Yeah, 100%. But it's not exactly just plug and play. PJ Walker's set to start Sunday's game. I think give PJ Walker a start. I mean, I know it was the XFL or whatever, but he's looked all right. I mean, he hasn't looked awful. I think give him a start. Matt Barkley's also on the roster for whatever that's worth. It's not really worth anything, but I figured I'd mention it. Darnold's probably out. I don't know how long he's out.
They said 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks? Okay. I mean, I have no doubt Newton will probably play because Walker either gets injured or maybe a blowout game or something, so he might get a chance to play. But if I'm Carolina, I would be shocked if somehow Newton works out. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. I don't even want to talk about how bad he was in New England, and because he was just not good.
Well, the good thing for them is that after this week when they play the Cardinals, which is, we'll see if Murray even plays. That's also a question mark in that game as well. But they go Washington, Miami, and Atlanta. So your next 3 games are on the easier side. Then you do go Bills, Bucks. Obviously, that's tough. But, I would assume Newton starts that Washington game and then would start those next couple games. So, they have easier games to play. And, look, I think Newton can still run an offense. I don't love him, obviously. He can't throw the ball past 15 yards. So we'll see how he looks. We'll see if he still can run. Again, he hasn't played in a while. Obviously, last year, I think he sat maybe the last couple games or whatever. Wasn't obviously playing as much as he was before. And then, obviously, so far this year, he hasn't even been on an NFL team. So we'll see what he looks like. Because, again, the running game is such a big part of his game. But, yeah, I mean, is this going to, leapfrog Newton into being a starting quarterback next year? I don't know. I don't think so. And if it is, it's on a really bad team where he's probably still fighting for the job, to be honest, going to training camp. So we'll see what happens with them. I don't really know what to say to that aspect. But for this year and for the Panthers and for them, I think he was probably the best available guy that you could go get anyways. So I think it makes sense for this year. But we'll see what happens for him, I guess, in the next year. Then we'll see, if he's still a quarterback in the next couple of years.
I don't think it's necessarily safe to assume he's going to start in the next few weeks.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't start in the next couple of weeks.
I wouldn't.
Why would you sign him then? If you had Barkley and Walker, what's the point of signing Newton?
Walker's not a guarantee. I mean, but honestly, I'm legitimately more confident in Walker than I am in Newton.
I don't know. Walker's not looked good in the NFL so far. He's thrown a couple. He's played a little bit, and I think he has like 5 or 6 picks and like 50 pass attempts or less. So it hasn't looked good for him. I can pull up his actual stats, but it's definitely not good.
You want to know how many touchdown passes Newton threw last year? You might know.
I think it's 5?
Like 8.
Yeah. I know it's not good. Look, I know he can't throw the ball. I mean, I know that ever since the shoulder surgery, but he can still run the ball and he can still operate an offense, which is something that you do have to give him credit for.
I don't know that I would be willing to say he can.
And in PJ Walker's career, he has 5 picks, 400 yards, 1 touchdown. I can't find exactly how many pass attempts he has, but I think it's like less than 50 pass attempts. So it's clearly they don't have a lot of.
I'm going out on a limb, or whim, or whatever.
Limb.
I think. I think so too.
Sounds right.
But yeah, I'm willing to say on this podcast that I have more faith in PJ Walker over the next month than I do Newton. I was a Darnold guy. I'm obviously looking more wrong and wrong as the weeks pass, which is unfortunate. I was hoping it'd work out. I'm obviously kind of off the bandwagon now, although the bandwagon's crashed and burned. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. But I would be shocked if Newton was able to put a good stretch together for the Panthers and like legitimately help them out.
Well, again, he has those
But we'll
three.
see.
He has those 3 games that are easier games. So as long as he looks good and they win 2 out of those 3, or even maybe all 3, we'll see. I really do see. I see a path for him to be the starter the rest of the year. Now, would that mean he's the starter next year? No, I think they'd probably go for a Watson, especially because Darnold at that point wouldn't be your quarterback of the future. So you'd probably look at a Watson or even someone in the draft. But for this year, I could definitely see Newton starting the rest of their games. And
there's a path. I'm not going to say there's not a path. There's a path. I just think he has to actually play well in whatever action he sees to see more than 1 or 2 starts. We'll see. I guess maybe the path is that Walker's obviously a disaster, and then Newton is like plays like the 30th best quarterback in the league or 26th best quarterback in the league, and that's like as good as you're going to get. I guess that's the path. But to me, like, whatever. I mean, you're toast anyways at that point. So,
well, yeah. I mean, look, they're clearly on plan, C or whatever at quarterback, but
yeah.
But that was something that I guess you missed today. But yeah, Cam Newton's back there, but I think that was all the NFL news, at least signing wise.
Yeah. So we'll just get into Week 10.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with our predictions. I'll let you go first. Do we have any games that are the same this week?
We have one game that's the same, but we have different teams in it. So this is a big week. All 5 games every single game matters, because none of them are the same. But
which game is that?
You picked. It was the Saints game. You picked the Titans. I picked the Saints.
Yep.
But and that one, when we get to it, I'll talk about it. But for my first game, it's tonight's game, Thursday night's game. The Ravens at the Dolphins. The Ravens are -7.5. I mean, I feel like this is almost too easy. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's kind of why. It may not work out for me. Just because short week. The Dolphins obviously won last week, but they played the Texans. It's going to be Brissett again. I would be surprised if Tua was playing this game. I think it's Brissett. I mean, they would have already announced it. But so that may hurt me like last week when I thought it was going to be Tua, but it was Brissett. But still, the Ravens are obviously the better team. If the Ravens were home, this line would obviously be 10.5 or maybe even more. But yeah, I don't know. I see the Ravens kind of just coming in, steamrolling the Dolphins. Obviously, last week the Ravens had the OT thriller against the Vikings, where they probably should have lost that game, to be honest. But this week I think they've had a lot of close games recently. Obviously, not counting that Bengals game that they lost, but their wins have been a lot close, come from behind wins. I think this game they just come straight in, they score right away, and they kind of just get rolling from there. I think it's a blowout in this one.
It was a game I looked at. But, I mean, Ravens at Dolphins. Miami's not the easiest place to play. It's not the hardest, but it's not the easiest place to play in the world. I thought this was like a fairly accurate line. Essentially, maybe 9.5 point spread on a neutral field, maybe. Or maybe 10.5.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens have had a lot of close games. I don't think they're due for a loss, but they seem to kind of be just not super. They just haven't played well against a lot of the more cupcake teams in their schedule. And I'm not going to bet on the fact that they're going to come in here and just blow out the Dolphins. Because the Dolphins, while they're a bad team, Flores is still not regarded as a bad coach, and I would not be surprised if he's able to put together a solid game plan for Lamar, make it hard on them, put pressure on Lamar, make him run out of the pocket, make him make throws off balance. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it was a game that I was debating, but my first game, Browns at Patriots. Patriots are 2.5 point favorites. I'm taking the Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to win this week. There's a bunch of reasons why. I'm actually going to record the Patriots podcast after this podcast. So I'll talk about it then. So if you want to see that, feel free to look at the link in the description for the whatever it's called, Clips channel. But I'm going to take the Patriots as 2.5 point favorites, and if you want to hear about it, Clips channel.
Are you just one question I'll ask? Yeah, it's not going to be on the Clips channel, or it still might be. But obviously, Brian Burns came out and had some choice words about Mac Jones, and obviously you play Myles Garrett this week. So are you afraid of possibly that?
You're talking about the dirty player, dirty hit type of thing?
Yeah, and he said, just have have fun going at the Patriots, and obviously you play against arguably the best defender in the league in Myles Garrett. So are you afraid of Garrett and having a huge day?
I'm not afraid. Myles Garrett's the type. He's a beast, 100%. He's a beast. So there's like two types of defensive linemen that I think about. There are the players that the Patriots have historically been able to game plan against and limit, and the players that even with a game plan, they still seem to kind of just be insane. J.J. Watt is a guy that obviously is insane, but historically against the Patriots, we were able to diminish his impact immensely. Aaron Donald was a guy that we were not. So what side of the spectrum does Garrett fit on that? I don't know. I'm not scared though. No, I'm not really that scared. Typically, we're fine at limiting a team's best player, whether it's on offense or defense. So I'm not too scared about it. As long as running backs can make their blocks, tight ends chip. Is Garrett gonna try to knock Mac Jones's head off? I don't know, but I think we'll be fine. I'm kind of scared about Isaiah win. But yeah. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm not scared about it.
It does. I just wanted to see your thoughts on it.
And I didn't necessarily think the Mac Jones play was a dirty play. Did you think that was a dirty play or no?
I don't think it was at first, but I think he did try and turn him when he had his ankle. If he just was holding his ankle and then Burns kind of like was the one who kind of fell, then it wouldn't have been. But Mac turned the ankle by himself.
He kind of turned the upper
he didn't
half.
Fully turn it, but he definitely turned it though.
I'll say this: it was closer to turning his just whole calf than it was to legitimately just trying to rip his ankle off his body.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a dirty play. To me, it didn't look like a dirty play at all. It looked like, from Mac Jones' perspective, he had gotten hit relatively hard, not an insane hit or anything, but hit hard enough to the point where he was not able to locate the ball. And if Burns had the ball and Mac Jones had just let him slip out, that would obviously have not been a good look, and he'd be in the doghouse to Bill Belichick.
Well, Mac knew he didn't have the ball because he was looking at the play. The play was he definitely knew he didn't have the ball. I think he definitely was a little mad about the hit, probably.
Probably a little bit.
And I think he tried to do something. I don't think it was a dirty play either, but I think he was trying to definitely, kind of do something to him without, fully doing it. He was kind of trying to half do it and make it look like it wasn't anything. Because again, people didn't really pick it up until the day after or even later that night, whenever they kind of actually picked it up. But yeah, I don't know. It was just something interesting.
It's a little fit of, he's a little fit. He had a little
definitely has a little
tantrum.
Yeah, he has a little rage in him. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's almost like Jokic, like Jokic's past.
Yeah, Jokic. Yes, a little bit. Yeah, I would equate it to that, but maybe not as bad, I guess, considering Jokic got a game. But
which that was ridiculous. But
yeah, I don't think he should get a game for that.
Well, no, I mean the NFL, it's impossible to suspend someone for a game for something like that.
Yeah,
especially a quarterback too. But yeah. So that was Drew's first game though. So moving on to my second game, Lions at Steelers. We talked about it earlier. I'm taking the Lions. They're +8. Again, this is just one where the Steelers are going to win this game. I mean, maybe they don't, but I'd be very surprised. But the Steelers most likely are going to win this game. But I think they're just going to keep the Lions in there. I think the Lions, they had a bye week, so they do have an extra week to prepare for this game. I think even though they're a bad team, and obviously, again, they're not a good team at all. They haven't won. But I think they can put a game plan together to at least keep it close or at least put some points together. Again, you're not going to have to score 30 points against the Steelers. They're just never going to score 30 points. Again, they couldn't even get to 30 against the Bears. So as long as you can get a couple touchdowns, just get good drives, just flip field position, then I think they'll be able to stay in the game. And again, 8 points is a lot for a team that doesn't blow other teams out in the Steelers. So I think the Lions should be able to keep it close and should keep it under 8 points. And again, I do think they will lose the game though, but they should be able to keep it under 8.
Yeah, I think I would, if I was to bet that game, I would go Detroit as well. Yeah. My second game, it's actually the game that, I guess I'll skip that for now, but I'll go Vikings at Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites, and I'm going to go with Minnesota to win this game outright. I don't love the Chargers. I think there might be some sort of game plan against the Chargers, which is essentially don't let Herbert do whatever he wants to. I know that doesn't really mean much, but Herbert just has not been good recently. It's kind of started with the Ravens and then the Pats, and then they barely beat the Eagles, and he just hasn't had as great of a year, I think, as
he was player of the week this past week
against the Eagles, and they won by 3 points.
Yeah, no,
but he has not looked as great. I think Herbert really likes middle of the field, and I think if you take that away, I think you'll have a much more successful time against him. I think that's what the Patriots pretty much did. And I think the Chargers are probably slightly overrated, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Their defense is not good. I think the Vikings should just be able to run all over them. It's nothing about the Vikings in particular. It's just I think any team can do that. And the Vikings are a better team than the Eagles. And, I think the Vikings win this game. I know I kind of talked bad about the Vikings last week a little bit, saying that they weren't the best 3-5 team of all time or in the past decade. But the Vikings are a better team, in my opinion, than the Chargers, or it's at least close. And, getting 3 points, I'll take it. I'm going to go with Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Dalvin Cook's playing in this game. Obviously, he has all this stuff going on with him as well. But I haven't seen anything that said he's not playing, so I would assume he would. Teams have, like you said, I mean, Herbert's definitely been really good. I've obviously am a huge Herbert guy. But they kind of have figured out their offense in that they just want to pass the ball. So just drop people down. Don't put people in the box. If they want to run it, they can run it. They're okay running the ball, but they're not amazing, and they won't kill you. So as long as you just have a lot of DBs on the field, he'll still throw for yards, but obviously it's just less than what it would have been. But so our next game, this is the game that we both have. Saints at Titans. I'm taking the Saints. They're plus 2.5. And really the big question for this one is, was Semien starting, or is Semien starting, or is Hill? And I tried to look it up and see if they've announced anything. I haven't seen anything yet. So I would assume that means Semien starting because he was a starter last week. But I also assume that Hill's going to have more involvement in the offense. He really didn't do much last week when he was in his first game back from being injured. And I would assume in this game he's going to do a lot more, whether it's just being at the quarterback position or obviously just being a wide receiver, running back, guy who could take snaps, do everything like that. I don't know if the Titans or if the Saints win this game. I think they actually probably have a decent shot. I think the Titans have obviously been riding a high the last couple of weeks with some huge wins. Obviously, coming off that Sunday night game without Henry against the Rams. But, this one, even though they're home, I think they may look at the Saints, obviously, who just lost to the Falcons at home, as a little bit of an easier opponent than what they faced lately. So they may let off, their foot off the gas a little bit in this one. And I think the Saints have a chance to win this game, or at least lose a really close one, obviously less than 2.5 points.
Yeah, so I'm picking the exact same game. I'm going Titans. You might say, Drew, I thought you didn't like the Titans, and that's true. That is 100% true. I'm not a big Titans fan. Obviously, no Henry. But I don't like the Saints either. I just don't like the Saints. So I'm going Titans.
Going Titans. All right. My fourth game, Bucks at Washington. Bucks -9 is what I'm taking. Bucks are coming off a bye. This is a rematch of last year's playoff game, obviously, and that was, obviously a lot closer game than anyone expected. But, it's such a different team for both teams, to be honest. Washington's obviously not the same team they were last year. The defense is terrible. I expect Brady to have a big day. Again, they coming off a bye, so also the last game that they did play was a loss to the Saints, so I don't know what Brady's record is anytime he comes off a loss, and then especially if there's a bye in between then as well, it's probably pretty good. So I have confidence in the Bucs to win this game. I have confidence in them just to do what they do best, and that's put up points, cause turnovers on defense, and beat an inferior team that you're supposed to beat by a lot of points. So that's kind of my reasoning in going with the Bucs in this one -9.
Interesting. I think 9's a lot of points, so that's why I was kind of scared of that game. But my fourth game, Jaguars at Colts. Indianapolis is favored by 10 points, and I'm going to go with Indy. What?
You said 9 points is a lot, but isn't 10 points a lot?
10 points is a lot, but the Colts are at home. And the Colts, the Jaguars are also a worse team than the football team, the Washington football team. So that's why I'm going with Indy. I'm kind of stuck on my Indy winning the division take, and I still like it. The only thing is the Colts obviously have to win a week like this. They have to win this game. It's a must-win if they're going to compete for the division, especially if I'm taking the Titans to win. So, yeah. I don't like the Jaguars that much. People have said, wow, look at Urban Meyer. Like, everyone thought he should have been fired week 3 of the NFL year, and now he's not doing horrible, which is like kind of true, but still not really true. I mean, listen, you beat the Bills 9-6, but we can start talking about, is Josh Allen overrated? Was last year a mirage? No, but Bills had an awful game last week, all right? Josh Allen looks like the rookie Josh Allen more so than he looks like MVP Josh Allen. The Bills team in general was awful. If you win a game 9-6, I might as well just not count it. It's an aberration. It's not what the NFL modern day is. That's just not the NFL. The Jaguars are an awful team. The Colts are not a great team, but a good team that's desperate and needs wins to start getting back in this division race. So Colts are going to win by 14 or more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see again. You're going against arguably the worst team in the NFL, but even still, we'll see. But my last game, I'm Seahawks at Packers, and I actually want to ask, Rodgers is supposed to play this game. He's supposed to be cleared by Saturday, which obviously would mean he's good to go for Sunday. But if somehow he isn't busy again, we're recording this on Thursday, do I have to stick with it? Or could I give you a provisional one in case he doesn't play? Or do you want me just to stick with it? It's whatever you want.
I mean, what would help me the most is say you have to stick with it because you would still pick this game, right?
If Rodgers wasn't playing.
Well, if you had to pick right now, not knowing necessarily.
Not knowing, yeah, I'm picking this game assuming Rodgers is going to play. So that's like
I'll give you it. I'll give you the substitute or whatever in case Rodgers does not play. Sure, I'll give it.
Okay, well, the substitute game I was going to go, and I was deciding between either of these for the last one, but I was just assuming, again, I'm assuming Rodgers is going to play, and he should play. There's no reason that he shouldn't play because he should be cleared by Saturday, but it would be the Rams-Niners, and I would take the Rams. That was the other game I was looking at. But, again, talking about the Packers-Seahawks, the line's -3 for the Packers. Again, Rodgers is supposed to play this game. Wilson is supposed to play this game for the Seahawks as well. But I think he's coming back too early. I think that even though he was cleared by the doctor and everything, he's clearly coming back too early. He should be out at least another week to rest on the injury. And even though it's a finger injury, I think it was his throwing hand, right? I'm pretty sure it was his throwing hand. Maybe it was his non-throwing hand, the injury. But even still, I think he's coming back too early. I just saw what happened when Dak came back, and I know he had the extra week of rest, and he still looked super rusty, and I know it was a leg injury, and obviously that's different than a finger injury, but the finger injury that Wilson had was a nerve issue, so obviously who knows what can really happen with that, gripping the ball and everything. It's going to be cold in Green Bay. That's clearly going to play somewhat of a factor on that finger. I just think he's going to look rusty. I think if this was next week, then it obviously would be different. But with his first game coming back, probably a week or two early, in the super cold in Green Bay, which is what it's going to be, I just think it's a lot for him to do. And I just think Rodgers comes back. He's a monster game, and I don't think they blow him out, but I think they definitely win by more than 3 points.
This line was surprising to me. I was looking to take the Seahawks this week, but when I saw the Packers were only favored by 3, I was like, I don't want to touch this game. If I was to bet on this game, I think I would go Green Bay because I just think 3 points is just not a lot. I was anticipating them to be favored by like 5.5, 6.5. So you're telling me that essentially you're telling me that if this game was neutral field, Seattle would be favored because essentially Lambeau should mean more than 3 points. Or at least it's a pick'em. This line has to be impacted by the fact that Rodgers potentially won't play, but all signs indicate that he's going to play.
Yeah, they said he should be cleared by Saturday.
There's no reason he won't play. He's going to play.
Yeah, I'll look it up again just to make sure, but that's what they said last week, was that 10 days, which would have brought him to Saturday.
Yeah, so the line was really surprising to me. I feel like it has to do something with that, just on like the 10% chance Rodgers doesn't play, I guess, or the 5% chance. I would put it at like 5%. I mean, I don't see why he won't play. So yeah, but honestly, I could see the Seahawks winning this game because they're the more desperate team, and on paper they're probably closer than their records indicate. But at the same time, Russell Wilson, you're right, might be coming back too early. This team's chemistry is 100% not there compared to Green Bay. Green Bay has some impressive wins that Seattle just does not have. So, yeah, it's tough for me to bet on Seattle when they're inconsistent. Russell Wilson's coming back for the first week. It's a lot. And the Packers have been a relatively consistent team just in general historically, short-term, long-term.
And just quickly on the Rodgers thing, he said that there's a very, very, very small possibility of him not playing Sunday, so that's probably like a 2% chance. But they said the earliest he can return is Saturday, and as long as he tests negative and is asymptomatic, then he should be cleared for Sunday. So it looks, he should be able to play Sunday.
Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't. But let's just say Rodgers does not play this game. You're taking Rams as 4-point favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will matter. I'll give you this option if you want to take it.
Again, you could decline the option.
I'll give you this option on top of the option that I just gave you. I gave it to you. I wrote it down or whatever.
Okay.
I put it in the notes. I'll give you this option on top of it. I will let you just throw both in. I'll let you bet 6 games this week. Oh. That's up to you.
No, if that messes up, then you'd have to bet 6 games.
Yeah. I wouldn't have to.
No, but it would mess it up just because I would have an extra game. So
yeah, you're right.
We could do that though for the rest of the season. Like at some point, we each get to pick only once, or maybe we could even figure it out. But maybe once or only twice, you could pick 6 games, so you can get it if you have to come back or something. You need an extra game. You could do that. If you want to do that.
Or, well, wouldn't we both have to have, like, the same amount of, like, voucher, like, 6, I get to pick 6 games this week voucher, like, either if it's 1 or 2 more times this year or whatever?
Yeah, like I'm saying after this week, like, let's say we settle on, like, we each get 1 time the rest of the season where we each get to pick 6 games, and you could choose it whenever. Yeah. Obviously, if you need to come back, that week.
But it wouldn't be like a need to come back. It would be like I feel confident in these 6 games, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, yeah, but it would help someone who's obviously losing because you have an extra game that if you win, you just get an extra game.
Yeah. Would there be an option to never use that voucher?
I guess there could be, but if we want the games to match up, obviously you'd probably have to use it.
Oh, I'm just thinking because let's just say that you use your game and then you lose, and then I say, all right, well, I'm already out ahead because technically.
Yeah, that's something I guess we'd have to.
I don't know. We'd have to think about it, but I was actually thinking that maybe there's like a one. I don't know. This would be inconvenient, but like instead of the 6 games in 1 week voucher, like a one time we both get 1 time where we can tell the other person like live on the show, I'm choosing this week to be a week where you have to pick 1 extra game right now, and then you have to pick a game that you have not picked.
And the other person would pick the game, or
no? Like you would pick the game, but it's just like obviously it's not one of your top 5 games because I've already picked 5, and then you don't get the luxury of having already picked it. You could technically every single week have one pre-planned for that, but I don't know. We can talk about it. We'll add some sort of we'll add something.
Yeah, we can honestly always do like, this would be maybe a little ridiculous, but like. Every single week we each choose a game for each other, and you obviously you'd want to choose a game that obviously they'd lose, like you do like whatever, like if there was a line that was like 17 or something like or even like obviously I guess probably like a pick'em would even be the better line because it's way less chance.
A game that or that you think your opponent would have a tough time getting the right answer.
I don't know. I guess we could talk about it after.
Yeah. But anyways, that's week 10.
You still have your final.
I have my final game? Okay. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're right. Kind of talked about it. But Rams at Niners. It's a primetime game. I'm 99% sure. Niners are 4-point underdogs at home against the Rams. And I'm going with the Niners to cover the 4 points. Have the Niners showed me much recently? No. They obviously just lost to Arizona with Colt McCoy, and they looked bad. And the media... the new hot thing, the new hot take with coaching is Shanahan is not, the guy or whatever. And we talked about that on our show. And we kind of landed around, he's anywhere from like, maybe if you really love Shanahan still, he's around 6 at the very high end. And if you're not so hot on Shanahan, he's probably closer to like maybe 12.
Yeah.
But realistically, I think we both had him around that like 8 or 9 area. So we still have him as a top 10 coach, both of us. I think he comes out this week, and I think he shows that, I think he shows why he was compared to Sean McVay, and even some thought he was better than Sean McVay at, his peak or whatever of his Niners coaching and going back to his Falcons offensive coordinator days. I think the Niners make it close. I think it's a close game. I think the Niners pull it out close, maybe a game-winning field goal, maybe some overtime. We'll see. So, yeah.
The one thing I'll say for that is the Niners are definitely like a good choice only because they need a win. Like they just need a win so bad.
If they lose, they're done. I think.
They're done. They're not making the playoffs this year if they lose this game for sure. But like after last weekend, going against a backup quarterback at home, they still haven't won at home so far this year. They haven't won in over a year at home. They need a win this week, and it's against McVay. Obviously, Shanahan and McVay are friends, but obviously everyone's on McVay, and a lot of people are kind of falling off Shanahan, so clearly he has some jealousy there, I would say. So obviously he wants to win this one head-to-head, but it's just, I don't know, it's the Rams. They're also coming off a loss at home, so that could also play a factor. Again, I don't know what McVay's record with the Rams is after a loss, but again, I would assume it's pretty good. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's going to be a good game, and again, if Rodgers doesn't play, then that's another game where we'll be head-to-head. That'll be two out of the 5 games we'd be head-to-head, but again, it doesn't seem likely that were to happen because it does seem like Rodgers is going to play.
Yeah, I guess as long as the Rams are not leading in the first half.
Yeah, 43-0 when leading.
By the way, I hate that stat. It just, I don't hate
it.
At
some point, it's going to end.
At some point, it just gets old because people are watching these games. Typically, it's the same audience. I know it's not the same people every single week, but I've heard that stat the past 13 games. I swear to God, I've heard that stat since it was 35-0.
Well, did you see the one Monday night where the Steelers? I think it was when they're up 2 possessions in the fourth quarter at home in their history, they're 200. They're 200, 5 and 2 or something like that. And then that's then.
Did they say who those 2 losses are to?
I think that it was somewhere around that record. It was 200 and something, very very minimal. And then there was 2 ties or something.
When they have 14 point, when they have a 14 point.
It was either 2 possession. It must have been 2 touchdowns. I think they were up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
So a 2 touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. They were at home. The Falcons, if they did that stuff for the Falcons, it'd be like 5-10.
Yeah. It was, but that's another stat where those stats always come to an end, and anytime they publicize it, it's like a kicker stat. The kickers made however many kicks inside 40 yards or whatever, then they always miss the next kick. So
it's just I get why it's a stat, and I get why they're saying it, but who doesn't win when they're up 2 touchdowns at home in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the worst record? I know excluding the Falcons, who has the worst record of that? Because honestly, I would imagine it's still something insane. Maybe not 205-2, but
it looks like it was 2 possessions because they were only ever up 10 points.
Okay, so then anything more than 8.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah, I would assume it's 2 possessions.
If you had made me guess what the average team is, in that scenario, they probably don't have as many games because the Steelers have been a dominant franchise or one of the best franchises. But I would say probably 120-10 or something. It's obviously not as good as 205-2, but what are they I don't know. To me those kind of stats are sometimes they're cool, sometimes they're where did you find this? So yeah. Anyways, though, I think that's pretty much it. NFL stuff, OBJ, Cam Newton. We talked Cassius Marsh. We talked Week 10. Anything else, Brandon?
No, I don't think so. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll probably get into more NBA stuff as the season kind of progresses. We're about 12 games through, 10 games through for most teams, around there.
Yeah.
Some surprises, some not surprises. The Celtics have picked it up a little bit. Interesting.
Warriors are 10-1.
Warriors are 10-1. I had Curry as my MVP, right? Did I not? Yeah, I did. I had Curry as MVP, looking good. Lakers Nets, my finals prediction. Lakers Bucks. What's looking better, Lakers Nets, Lakers Bucks right now? I guess it's really it's
the Bucks have so many injuries right now. But yeah, both those teams are still going to be there in the end.
Yeah.
So
okay, MIP Shea. That was your pick, by the way. That's probably the best pick. Shea must have been.
The only thing is just that he was he was good last year, so it's just hard. But he's so much better this year. But you have a guy like Miles Bridges, who's obviously a lot better this year. Then you have a couple other guys, Tyler Hero possibly. But he could win 6 Man of the Year. So
I would assume Shea was up there in terms of odds favorites for MIP. I think remember when I was looking at it, he was like at least top 5. Maybe he might have been even number 1. But yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, that's looking like a very solid pick right there. And I think my best pick right now is Curry. Rookie of the year, Cade Cunningham. Well, we'll see.
That's looking like Mobley right now, I'll say. And like I said, when the draft happened, I think Mobley is going to be the best player out of the draft, and it's pretty obvious he's going to be the best player. He's insane how good he is.
I don't think it's obvious yet.
In my opinion,
it is.
We're
10 games in. We're 10 games in.
But if you watch him, if you watch his games, which I've watched a couple games of the Cavs, which I don't really know why I'm watching. He's so good. And again, he's a rookie. I mean, just like people are already comparing him to like KG and like an AD type level, like architect or, whatever. He's on that type path. He is. He's so good defensively already. He's going to make a defensive team, maybe not this year, but he's going to make defensive teams in the years to come. And he's going to be one of the better offensive players who's, can shoot the 3, can have a post game, can handle the ball, can pass the ball. He's so ridiculous. So that's just the reason why I just thought he's going to easily be the best player out of the draft. And yeah,
I mean, I have Mobley as my second best player out of this draft, so it's not like I'm far off. I don't think I'm going to officially say right now he's for sure. Like, I mean, Cade's played 5 games. So.
Yeah, I like Cade. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's only been 10 games, right? But he's only played 5. I don't see it in Cade.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. When we look at, when we were looking at Cade, everyone knew he was going to be the number 1 pick, and we kind of looked at, you have your hierarchy of how highly touted of prospects people were coming out of the draft. The guarantee number 1's, AD is at the top. In recent memory, that is.
Yeah.
Zion was probably a tier, maybe on that tier or slightly under it. But then Anthony Bennett would be on the bottom of those number 1 picks because he was not. It's not because he was a bust. It's just because
he was a surprise pick.
He was a surprise pick. That was a horrible draft. People thought that was going to be a horrible draft. It was a better draft than it was supposed to be, I think, because of Giannis.
Yeah, they got. Yeah,
but it was at the top. It was a bad draft. It was supposed to be a bad draft going into it. Wiggins would be high up on that list too. The question was, is Cade kind of a tier under the AD guys in terms of the prospect wise, or is he on that tier? And I think I kind of have him. I had him closer to that AD tier than I did to maybe. Who's your average number 1 pick? I don't know. I'm trying to think right now, but
Cat. I mean, Cat's obviously good, but he's not he didn't live up to what he was supposed to be. And again, he's still pretty young, but I never looked at Cade like that. But there's this thing that me and my dad would always do. We'd go through the top 10 picks of you look at the last 10 NBA drafts. You could do it at any time. You look at the top 10 picks, and 3 of them are bust. 3 of them are role players, and then 2 of them are all-stars, and one of them is one of the better guys in the league. That's if you look at every single draft, that's the way it works. And some may be a little bit more, some may be the other way, but that's usually the way it works. So out of this top 10, we'll see. And you could just look back 5 years, and you could see, you could probably already see it now. So we'll see what happens. But again, he's going to be a good player. I just don't know if he's ever going to be one of the best players in the league. I just don't know if he'll ever reach that.
I think this will be one of the better drafts out of, we'll say. If we were still in the 2010s, from 2010 and on, I think this will rank as one of the better drafts. Maybe one day we'll go back in these drafts and rank these drafts ourselves as which ones are the best. An average number 1 pick, Markelle Fultz. I think he obviously did not work out in the NBA. He's still in the NBA, but I think he was an average number 1 pick to me. As a prospect, coming into the draft, how highly touted was he? To me, he was on that kind of average tier. Maybe Edwards too. I would say he was probably lower than average. I would have had Cade above Fultz. I would have had him above. I would have had him on that Ben Simmons tier, I think, and that's where I would have him in terms of ranking number 1 picks. In terms of, I don't know. It's kind of it's not really a tangible thing, but
yeah. But we could always kind of go through the drafts. We could do the 2010 drafts, and we could. Do you want to redraft them? We could redraft the top those. 10 or top 15 picks or whatever.
Yeah, we could redraft those top 10 picks. The interesting thing is, how do you redraft? I mean, I've watched redraft videos and stuff. let's just say the Cavs in 2013. Like, am I redrafting based off the team they had in 2013? Am I redrafting? Am I just giving you the 10 best players from the draft?
I think it's just doing the best player at the number one pick. Like, I think it's not team wise, not anything wise. It's just like what team would that, like, if you were to go back, what player would that team take?
Yeah,
or team would that player?
I think at that point when you start to get into 2013, early 2010s, you're looking more at like an informational video, which is I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just like, what hot take am I going to give you about the 2012 draft or 2011 draft? Yeah. You know, like,
so maybe the last 5 years then.
No, I'm just sure, whatever. We'll figure it out. But I just, even like if we go to the 2018 or I guess that's when it kind of starts, like 2017, 2018, maybe 2016. I guess there's controversial. Like, where do you draft Ben Simmons in 2016? I don't think
honestly. I kind of forget who was really in that draft, but.
Simmons.
I mean, once I look at the draft, then yeah, for sure you'd see. But
let me look it up.
I mean, Simmons was in the draft, obviously.
Brown was in that draft.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown was in that draft.
Who was
Josh Jackson was in that draft.
Josh Jackson. That was Ingram, right? That was Ingram.
Yeah, that was Ingram 2.
Yeah,
Brown
Dragon
3,
Bender, Chris
Jackson
Dunn, Buddy
4.
Hield, Jamal Murray, Marquise Chris, Jakob Podol, Thon Maker, Sabonis, Torian Prince.
So, yeah, like someone like Sabonis would be like 4 or 5, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And Brent, I think it'd probably be between. I mean, maybe there's someone later in that draft who got taken, but between just the names you said, it'd probably be between Brown and Simmons, between the number one pick.
It would probably Ingram. I don't know. Probably not.
Ingram's all right. He's not. Ingram's definitely a good pick. He's a solid pick. But he's not a number one pick. Even though it's Simmons and Brown, they're kind of similar, but they're still better.
I don't know. DeJounte Murray's 29 in that draft. Siakam's 27 in that draft.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are top 10 picks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to see, and then like there's always, again, like whatever Jokic was drafted second round in the 2014 draft, I think it was, or 2013 draft. Like obviously he'd be, depending on whatever draft it was, he'd rather be 1, 2, or 3. So
yeah,
it's cool to see all that stuff.
Yeah, but anyways, that's it.
Just last thing, Shea was actually plus 8,000 on Most Improved Player.
Really?
I think it was just because of the numbers he had last year. It just
makes sense. Yeah, no, that's fair.
But yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though. NBA, looking forward to it. It's already here. I just looking forward to more NBA. But that's pretty much it for this video. Feel free to check everything in the description. Patriots channel. Patriots episode will probably be up by the time you're watching this episode, so that'll be in the description. That's it. We'll be back Sunday night. Either Sunday night or Monday or Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Probably. So, yeah, we'll be back. Thank you for watching the video. Goodbye.